to our webinar on how to become an award-winning business, something that I'm sure everyone desires. My name is David Richardson, and I'm the Federation of Small Businesses Development Manager for the Highlands and Islands. But this is a UK-wide webinar, and we've got an international, 4 home nations, star-studded panel to inspire you. We'll be exploring the whys and the wherefores of the FSB Awards right across the land. And of course, this is about the FSB Awards, but the same principles apply to virtually all awards, the transferable skills. Now, we are recording this webinar, so there's no need to scribble notes if you don't want to. We'll send out the link afterwards. And if you have any questions, and you might well do, please type them into the Q&A box. But rather than interrupting the flow of the webinar, we'll come to them at the end, when we summarize everything at the end. So at the moment, obviously, extremely tough time for businesses. We've got pandemic, the recovery from it, the debt incurred and so on. We've got skyrocketing costs, staff shortages, shaky consumer demand, uncertainty about the future, and so on and so on and so on. And for many, we've got, Christmas trading has begun as well. So it's a very, very busy time and a stressful time. So why take part in business awards like the FSB Awards? Surely it's just another distraction. Well, that's the key question that we're seeking to answer today. Why should you invest your valuable time and energy in the FSB Awards? Clearly, we think it time very well spent, but we'll come to that later. However, there's much more to it than that. There's no point in taking part in for the sake of it. If you're in it, you're presumably in it to win it. So this morning, we're going to discuss how to go about entering, what judges look for, and how to make the best of any success. Now, for the FSB Awards, the deadlines are in January or February, depending on where you are in the country. We have 12 regional/national finals before going forward to the UK final, and each one has its own deadline. To find out your deadline, Google FSB Awards deadlines. I tried it this morning, and up comes, lo and behold, the deadline. So that's where you look to find out what your local deadline is. So let's start by introducing the panel. We'll start with Nadia. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and the award you've won to justify your place here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Nadia McCain, Marketing Manager at the Platts Group. We're based in not so sunny North Wales this morning, but we have a couple of businesses in the group, but primarily Platts Agriculture. We manufacture bedding, specialist bedding for the dairy industry, and we distribute that all over the UK and to Ireland as well. It's a family business, still family owned and run. We're a 3rd generation director and 2nd generation managing director, Caroline, at the moment. And this year we won the Wales Environmental/Sustainability Awards and the Family Business of the Year, where we went on to win for the UK final as well, which was exciting.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much indeed for that. And next we have Sharmini. Oh, you're on mute.
Good morning, everyone, and lovely to meet you all. I'm Sharmini, and I'm based in New York. I'm the founder and multi-award winner of Sharmini's Inspirational Indian Cuisine. And I did win the Soul Trader Award and self-employed in Yorkshire and Humberside. And I run a curry school. So if you want to learn how to make a good curry, please do come to my class. And also I provide team building classes too. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Is that online or in the face?
Face to face.
Face-to-face classes.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks very much. Dom.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So my name's Dom Birch. I'm the Strategic Comms Director for a startup from Northern Ireland called Ublockquity. We're a blockchain company, so we use Wizzy technology to try and solve real-world problems like food fraud and food wastage, which I can talk about later. And we were the proud winners of the Northern Ireland Startup Business of the Year. We've been going just over a year, so we're making good progress, and we're delighted to pick up that award.
Well, thanks very much, Dom. And finally, over to you, Jimmy.
Sorry about that, couldn't get unmuted. Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Jimmy Buchan. I'm the Managing Director of Amity Fish Company. We are a seafood supplier based in Northeast Scotland, up in Peterhead, where it is currently blowing quite a hoolie, so nothing unusual there. And we're a seafood supply company. So I was a fisherman for 40 years. Had a great passion to see good seafood be supplied across the UK, and therefore the vision for the supply company came on the back of my experience in the fishing industry. So we are now very much involved in e-commerce, as well as supplying food service, and we have also supply seafood out to the offshore installations in the North Sea. So it's a great story from sea to plate and back to the oil rigs. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. What you failed to mention, you were the star of the Trawler or the Trawlerman?
The Trawlerman, which was a series, it was run by BBC back in 2006, 2007. So it was quite some time ago. I was a bit younger then, and it was an opportunity, I felt, to bring the world of fishing, which is a pretty much unknown world, into the living rooms of millions of people. So I saw the opportunity to promote the industry for what it does and the highs and the lows of that particular sector. So it was a huge opportunity, yes.
Yes, indeed. And you're now our overall UK Small Business of the Year. So that's a great accolade.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks very much, everyone. Now, let's go to the sort of first question. So you and obviously all our businesses in general, our members and businesses in general are obviously very busy and in many cases quite stressed at the moment. So why spend time entering business awards competitions? What do you get out of doing so, win or lose? So Jimmy, let's start with you.
Well, can I just say, and this is a great, for those who are listening and possibly not members, when we applied for this competition, we were not current members of FSB. So I think that's important to say that, to encourage people who may be thinking, but I think what I'm trying to get to here is you do not have to be a member to win. And we won our region first. Then we did become members because we saw the bigger picture and the merit in being part of the Federation of Small Businesses. But what do we get out of it? For me, obviously winning is important because it gives you a platform to project your company. But for me, I saw it more important to enthuse and encourage the staff. I wanted them to, we are a team, and I wanted them to feel part of a team. And for us applying for this particular field was about a team effort and how we had the challenges of the pandemic and how we made that. When we lost all our orders overnight, we had to rethink, re-strategize and rebuild the company so that it could supply to the UK. So it was all about, I feel for me that what I wanted out of this is if we could win this, what a great triumph for the team who've been able to turn this business around and take it on the journey it is. So that was my ultimate goal.
Excellent. And anything else? Any other sort of benefits?
Well, obviously the benefits of being part of the FSB is great because there's so many different things that you can tap into with insurance, business advice, and so on. But then again, once you become a winner, even if it's a regional winner, that gives you a platform to project your company as what it has achieved, and people take notice of that. And people want to be aligned with winning people as well. So I felt that it was many faceted, but you've got to seize the moment. Yeah. It is a competition. It only lasts for a few months, but you've got to maximize out of that. And I think for us as a company, we've used that platform to tell others that who are looking for new business or want to align with us. We are award winners, and we've done it on our own merit. These things are not gifted lightly. You're up against many other very, very good, strong contenders. So to be a winner, that is the ultimate that you are achieving things in your business.
Thanks very much. Sharmini.
Yes, I agree so much with what Jimmy had said. It means a lot. And again, it is free to enter. and you don't have to be a member. I too wasn't a member till after I got the award. And we could join so many programs, especially I enjoy all the online programs, which you can join from any part of the country. And it's all over UK. That's fantastic. And you get support from the FSB members on how to fill the form, because when you're thrown into the deep end, and if you're doing it for the very first time, it's very nerve-wracking. But also it's a good reflection of where you were, how you have grown, and where you want to be. Because every time we are thinking of today and tomorrow, but we don't look back at our past and see how much we have traveled in our couple of years in the business. And I was the sole trader award at Yorkshire and Humberside, and my business is only this small, and I just couldn't believe that I could have won it. But it is for anyone, everyone, and it doesn't have to be whether you are economically very successful or you're just doing your job, what you like, and you are helping others, and be passionate with what you do. It takes you a very long way.
Perfectly put. Thank you. Dom, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, building both on what Sharmini and Jimmy said, really, I had a boss once when I worked in the press office of a big company, Asda, and he said to me, Dominic, first spin wins. And what he meant by that was you need to stand out from the crowd, and you also need to claim credit sometimes for the things that you're doing, even if that isn't naturally in your demeanor. And I think when you're a busy business and you're just keeping everything at bay and trying to make things turn over, you don't stop very often, as Sharmini said, and reflect and put your foot on the ball and go, actually, look how far we've come, look how far we've traveled. And in a startup, that pace of change is dramatic because you're forever pivoting and having to go where the action is. So you don't really, you don't end up where you started, let's put it that way. So I would really encourage people to enter. Entering allows you really to distill down into a small number of words who you are, what you do, why it matters, and actually then force yourselves to provide some proof points. What's the evidence? What are the examples? And the more meaningful you can make those, the more that you can bring those to life in words that other people will understand and be able to imagine and picture, then that will translate. So it's really about telling your story. And although the award entry process might feel a little alien, actually it's just the chapters of your story. It's the beginning, the middle, and where you've got to so far. So if you think of it in those terms, it can make it a little bit easier to get your head around. And then also, of course, everybody wants to win, but don't underestimate being shortlisted. Don't even underestimate the fact that you were brave and you did enter. And all of those things are things that you can talk about. And you can talk about them on LinkedIn or on Twitter, assuming it's still here in the coming weeks, on Facebook, Instagram, or you can send out a press release to your local paper. So be proud of how far you've come. Be brave and enter the award. If you get shortlisted, tell everybody you've been shortlisted before the event. And if you're delighted and you actually win too, then as those who remember Bruce Forsyth, that's a Brucey bonus. You know, that's the cherry on top at the end. And really it does help you stand out from the crowd. And as businesses, that's what we all need to do. There's plenty of other people doing similar things to us, but you need to just be that little bit better at telling your story, and success breeds success. As Jimmy said, people want to hang around with winners. And so that would be my message to you, really. Be brave and give it a go. And you'll learn a lot about yourselves. You'll remind yourselves just how good you are and how much progress you've made.
Did you say you worked in the press office?
Once upon a time.
It shows. If you want to take over this thing, you're very welcome. I'll pass the baton to you. That's brilliantly put.
I've hung up my press office days.
Thanks very much indeed. Nadia.
Tough act to follow. Yeah, I mean, I echo everything that the others have said there. A bit like Jimmy and the others, we weren't members when we first applied either. So yeah, not just members, and like the others have said, we found the impact to be twofold. So not only has there been a real impact inside the organisation, where I think we've realised that that staff have really bought into these awards. Even if they weren't at the awards, everybody's been able to buy in and say, actually, I'm really proud to work for a company who wins these awards. And that's brought us closer together as a team as we grow. But externally as well, so we've noticed a real impact when we're recruiting locally, that people are coming to us and they've said, oh, we've seen on social media that you won these awards, and you know, there's a real sense that people want to work for an award-winning business, and that means a lot to us kind of in the current climate, really, when recruitment, there's a lot of people can be quite choosy, can't they? So yeah, for the HR side of things, we've noticed a real buzz. And then the other thing I was going to say is actually you can be really choosy. It feels like there's so many awards out there that you could be entering. You could easily spend days every week, couldn't you, entering different awards? But I think it's really important to go with something that's relevant to you, and also a reputable, well-recognised award such as the FSB, and something that has a bit of a weight behind it, really. Yeah, you can be choosy and choose where you spend your time, because it is a time commitment. For me, I really enjoy kind of deciding what we're going to enter for the year, and I take myself away. I book in a bit of time in my diary, make myself a nice coffee, and lock myself in a boardroom, try and look busy so you don't get interrupted, and block out that time to sit and dedicate some time to properly writing the awards. And we'll talk about that later as well, I think.
Thanks very much indeed. I'm just looking at some of the questions that are coming in. We'll come to them at the end, but thanks very much indeed for that, Nadia. That's a very good point about the staff recruitment. I think it does. It also lets you benchmark against other businesses in a sense. You know, everyone's applying, lots and lots of applications, because you never know who else has applied, but I can assure you lots of people do apply. And you're benchmarking yourself. If you win, you're the best of the people that applied, which is brilliant. To my mind as well, and it's a bit more tenuous, that if you've got an area, certainly for many businesses, if you've got an area that's rich in winners, it implies something about the business community in that area. Especially if they're perhaps in the service sector, in tourism, hospitality, and so on. If you've got a lot of winners in one particular area, it implies standards are high. So that's another really good thing. But I think this business of the process of applying is so important. Everyone keeps telling me that. At the end of the day, it's the process that you go through mentally to review where you are, to think about things, to take a step back from the hurly-burly of daily life and the pressures of daily life, just to review, is the most valuable part of it, or one of the most valuable parts. Okay, so if I'm a customer, or not customer, if I'm a viewer and I've been convinced that awards are good for me, why should I enter the FSB Awards? What has winning meant for your business? Now, we've covered that to a degree, but is there anything sort of bonus balls out there that have really helped your business? Nadia, you're on the screen. Let's stick with you.
Yeah, so a few different things. Let's have a look. So I think for us, one of the biggies has been taking advantage of the FSB PR that comes after the awards. So I know others have talked about if you don't win, that's still a brilliant achievement. But when you do win, you've got to let people know, haven't you? So we've done a bit of our own PR, we've shared the awards on social media, but the FSB have been really supportive in PR out there that has real weight behind it, and kind of travels far and wide within the business community. So that has been a real big one for us. Just last week, we had a video team from FSB come and do a bit of a mini documentary really on Caroline, the MD, and seen around the factory. So, you know, and that doesn't cost anything. So to a small business, that is so valuable for us to have. And also the award ceremony as a day, it's a really nice day out for the team. And also almost like a little team building event. We said before about how the staff feel so proud to be a part of that. And actually that was a real memorable day out for us. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much. Dom, how about you? Anything?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's come from being part of the FSB and getting the endorsement of the FSB is the network effect. So in Northern Ireland, Roger Pollan, who's sort of head of policy, I mean, his personal network is just so incredible that we've had the opportunity to brief government ministers, both in Northern Ireland and from the UK, about some of the projects we're working on, which, you know, let me tell you, even when I worked for Asda back in the day, we got excited at that level when you had a government minister show up and give you 5 minutes of their time. So the networking ability of the ecosystem of people involved in the FSB is just remarkable. And also getting to go to the national awards, having won a regional award. So we were able to come over to Edinburgh, and Nicola Sturgeon was the keynote speaker. It was hosted by Claire Balding. And you're in a room with 1,000 winners, 1,000 people that have all done remarkable things. And some of those were really humbling things. And you kind of think, gosh, are we really in their company? But that was hugely uplifting. And we got to take one of our youngest employees to that event and just give her that experience of being at a gala event alongside such amazing companies. So, I would say it was really uplifting. It's, that notion that a rising tide floats all boats, and it really felt that you were part of an amazing, vibrant community of small businesses that are really the engine room of the country. And it really felt that that was true. Sometimes you read these things, how important our small businesses are to the economy. But when you're in a room with 1,000 other small businesses, that becomes real. And I think it gave us more energy and determination when we got back to work the next day to just keep going and keep powering through. And I think we all need that. You need that sense of resilience and that sense of community. And I think that's what the FSB Awards, that's the invisible part, actually, that really came to life for us.
Yeah. It's interesting what you say about the meeting ministers. I mean, I've often thought in my role, I can't think of a role that I could fill. I could stand for election for something, I could work for a public agency, I can't think of any role I could do that would give me more opportunity to help small businesses than the role I do, and the economy and so on in the Highlands Islands than I do. I think FSB has immense influence and power, and it's really, it's a testament to our members, because it's our members that give us all the information. We're just mouthpieces, it's the members. So thanks very much for that. Right, let's go to Sharmini.
Yes, I totally agree with Dawn and Nadia, and I'm also being videoed on Friday, so that's another beautiful experience I'm looking forward to. And also the pride of being recognized by external judges, because what you think you are doing is good, but if someone else says, yes, definitely it is good, and on top of it, if you win it, oh my God, it takes you to another level or notch. And I would like to thank everyone, and especially my family, who have been very, very supportive. And being at that event is so glamorous, even just the regional one to win. And we had the Lord Mayor and Mayoress on our table, and you feel like a big star. That ambience just takes you to another place, and everyone is so well dressed and excited and encouraging each other, each team who has come there, all are successful businesses. And yeah, I think generally just be there, enjoy yourself, enjoy the journey, take part in the awards. FSB is so supportive. I never knew much about them, but now I sing praises of them. It's just there for you. Any silly questions I have, I just send it to Caroline Frank, our regional manager. At once I'll get the reply. I don't get that in any other places, I should say. It's amazing. Just join it.
Well, thanks very much. We'll all benchmark ourselves against Caroline to make sure we're delivering as quickly as she is. Jimmy.
Well, again, just to mirror what the others have said, I mean, for me, I mean, you're right. I think it was mentioned that you start off at the regionals and you're in there with a room of winners. But I think we all go in there thinking, well, we're here today, but we won't win. And then you go on to win. And then you're up at the big event, which was in Glasgow, I believe it was, Dom, not Edinburgh. But and you're right, the First Minister appears there, and kind of that is recognition of what all these small businesses are doing. And you're right, you're in there with hundreds of businesses, and it's such a proud moment. But once again, you're sitting there thinking, well, kind of I've won my heat, but these are real different companies. These are the winners in this room, and then you go on to win again, and from that, it's the PR that starts to kick in after that, because you're part of a much bigger network, and that's where it starts to again, your name is being punted out there in places that you couldn't have possibly done before. And I think it's fair to say that kind of on the back of that, I'm getting to do a piece for Financial Times this week. That would have never happened had it not been for FSB. We was to meet the First Minister just the other week. That would have never happened if it hadn't been for FSB. The market can be an overall UK winner. We are now going to be embarking pre-Christmas on a huge marketing campaign, gifted on the back of being the winner. So all of a sudden, all these new doors start to open up. There are doors that you could have possibly never afforded to open, but now they're not being opened; they're being kicked open, and therefore, to coin a phrase, the world's your oyster. So for us, it's been an exceptional journey, and I can only, as Shamani said, we can only praise the FSB, because they are now our extra wing, our loudhailer, that are allowing us to project even further than ever we could have anticipated.
Oh, thanks very much for that. Very welcome praise. So we'll go to the time is passing, we're almost at half past, so we'll do the next question, just quick answers to the next question, which is, should I enter mentoring, should I enter more than one category, and do you have any tips on how to decide which? Let's start with Sharmina.
I suppose you can enter many, but I just entered one because mine is such a small business and I'm the sole trader. So I thought that is the only one which is meant for me. But I'm sure if you look at all the different categories and you think, oh yeah, I can do this, I can do that, just apply. You know, it falls, at least once you have written an application form, you just have to modify little bits and enter another category. And it's the experience. It's just knowing that you feel confident about yourself, and then also you know that you're with others who are also in the same boat and want to travel along the journey with you. So just go ahead, apply for it.
Thanks very much. Jimmy again.
I think for me, it really depends on the business. If you're a multi-skilled business, then and you can write and apply in many different sectors or can vision, that's fine. But for me, I think focus on the one thing that you are good at. If you are good at something, and you start your application, your passion, your dream will come out on paper, and that's where you will get the attention of the judges. So not to get too long and winded, yes, there are many you can apply for, but if there's one that you're really good at, that's the one. Transfer that passion onto paper. You've got the judges in your hand.
Yeah, it's always a good place to have them. Nadia.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have often applied for more than one category. I think it's important that it's relevant. So I would go through and look at what the criteria is before you dive into spending hours writing things. Yeah, make sure it's relevant, and yeah, nothing to lose, I don't think. I would say wouldn't copy and paste. I think you've got such a tight word count that you need to make the most of what you can say. So you want that all to be completely relevant to what those questions are.
Yeah, excellent. And Dom?
Yeah, I sort of imagine it a little bit like a job advert. You know, sometimes in your early career, you read a job advert, you think, gosh, I couldn't possibly do all of those things. And then you kind of get over yourself and you go, well, I'm going to apply anyway. And then you have the interview and you realize, actually, I probably can do more than I think. So I'd just be careful. Don't be too self-limiting through the process. The questions can seem quite daunting, but just chip away at them. Do them, you know, perhaps in bullet points at first. As Nadia said, take yourself away from the melee of the phones and all the rest of it if you can, lock yourself away, but also give yourself enough time to reflect on it and maybe get a second pair of eyes. I always appreciate being able to hand it over as good as I think I can get it, but let somebody else just have a read through. Does it make sense? Am I being too repetitive? Am I waffling?
Yeah.
So just those sorts of things. So I'd be careful about being, from our perspective, too focused and missing an opportunity to apply for something else. Once you've got that bedrock, once you've got your story down on paper, you can use that forever. We've used it to rewrite our website. We've used it for press releases. We've used it for other award entries, dare I say, not even FSB ones, because the FSB was the first award we entered and it was a springboard. It gave us the confidence to actually look outside and go, what else could we enter? And we've entered a world award recently. And again, we went through the same process of thinking, we can't enter that surely, but we did and we got shortlisted. So I would really encourage you to not be too self-limiting at the start. Be bold.
Great. Well, it's good to hear you started with the best awards and you downhill from there, but yeah, good to hear that. That's really good. The things that occurred to me is, if you are looking at the awards and thinking what you should apply for, do bear in mind that some are more popular than others. So if you're wanting to increase your chances of winning, if you're a gambler, go for the ones you think, and you can fit the criteria, go for the ones you think are less popular, because, there you go, you never know. And also, don't just do the same standard answers for each. Tailor them to each one, because, you're amongst lots of people applying for that award, and judges, what are they going to judge you on? They're going to judge the quality of the answer. So if you're just doing the same standard answer, it might not fit perfectly. So make sure you fit perfectly. Right. So how do I go about entering is the next question. What preparation should I put in, and how do I ensure that I give the best possible answers? Well, Dom, you're in the hot seat still, so you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, look, there's value in entering the award as a benchmarking process, right? So actually putting down the information on paper. If you don't get shortlisted, that's giving you a signal. It's not saying that you're not doing a great job. It's not saying that you can't be successful, but it is giving you a signal. So it isn't necessarily always about getting, listed or shortlisted, sorry, or winning the award. It really helps you, distill down the information that's required. It might also make you realize that you haven't got enough evidence. And if you haven't got enough evidence yet, then maybe that should be part of your strategy. You might not have proven your great idea, right? You've got a fantastic idea, but until you've got customers paying for it, or you've got some money in the bank, or you've got some milestones that you've achieved. So I think going through this process, even if you think it's too early, is a really good way of getting ready. And actually, it's really good to hone your strategy. It's really good to make your business better. So I noted in the chat, somebody saying, oh, I'm only a one-person band and I've not been doing it too long. Well, force yourself to enter one of the awards then, and you'll be able to see, without the benefit of having a team of people around you, you'll get some feedback. So I would really encourage people to do that.
Thanks very much. Right, so now we have Sharmini.
Yes, when you enter, I found that FSB members are very, very, very happy to help you. So sometimes you're stuck in a question, you just don't know how to answer it. Approach them, they will guide you and say, try, this might help you. And then you'll start thinking differently too. And also, please look into all your reviews. That is also very, very helpful, because it sort of tells you who you are, because your customers would have said, oh, I enjoyed this part of what you did and this is what you did. So you can convert it as into your story. You can add it on to your story. Yeah, I think that those two are the main things. And you will enjoy the process. I know it looks tough. It is tough. But end of the day, you feel you have achieved a lot. At least when you go down that journey, you will realize where you were. And again, I'm repeating it, and where you are now and how you have grown. That itself is a good testament to yourself and boost your own confidence. Just apply.
Brilliant. Nadia.
Yeah, so practically a few things that we do. So throughout the year, I tend to keep a bit of I've got a couple of folders and things on my computer where I'll just screenshot little things that we've done, things that have cropped up on social media. I've got a spreadsheet that is our media register. So if there's anything in the press, I just pop a link there, because years ago, I just never would be able to find everything all in one place. So little practical things like that, where you just keep a pot of ideas. And I've also got a page in my diary where I just scroll down things thinking, oh, I'll pop that in an award entry, and then you can just dip it back into that whenever you're writing. So I always find that really helpful. The other thing is I always copy the questions into a Word document, because you get these like annoying little boxes and you want to be able to spell check everything to make sure that the grammar's good. It might be that you're the person writing the awards, but you've actually got somebody else in the office who's a really strong writer, or you might need to get your finance people in to provide you with the figures. So yeah, I think John mentioned earlier, having somebody to proofread, leaning on other members of your team where they've got really good skills is a nice thing to do, and it gets other people involved as well, doesn't it?
Thanks a lot. And Jimmy?
Well, again, pretty much covered by the previous answers, but I think it is also a chance to maybe evaluate your own business, and because when you start to write these things down, it will surprise you how much you have achieved, and the content is really important. So all of these things is an opportunity to learn about your own business, because you're so busy in it that you're not actually absorbing the journey that you've covered so far. So this award is you starting to step that out. And you're right, you may not be shortlisted this time, but it's a great learning exercise to learn more about your business. And one last thing I might suggest is take it out of your business for someone to read over. Give it to an independent to let them see it through the prism of their eyes, rather than the bias of your eyes. So again, if you didn't have a team, get someone to help you. Look, get an individual to have a snapshot to see, how does this read? How does that person feel about what I've just written about your company? So those are maybe little tips that might be helpful for those who are thinking about it. Stop the thinking, just do it.
No, absolutely. All your points are absolutely brilliant. I mean, it to me, it's exactly what it's about. But having judged quite a few applications, the one thing that I would say is never, ever, ever type straight into the form, because you typos and things go wrong. Think it out, make your notes, think it out, type it in Word and copy and paste. And the other thing is, when you're copy and pasting, make sure that you haven't written too many words, because you'd be amazed how many people you're reading their answer, and it just midway through a sentence it stops because they've run out of words, and they've kept on, they've copied and pasted and not checked. And you can't mark an application like that. You've got to get it into the box that you're asked for. You don't want to be too short, but you cannot overflow because it looks terrible. And I think it's really, really important. So, and always use Word and then copy and paste. And obviously it's also about taking the time, answer the questions as put, not the questions you'd like to answer. Because again, some people answer, they go off on tangents, and that's fine. But if you're scoring, you might be scoring with a sort of matrix of tick, 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 have they answered these questions properly, and giving them points for each. That's what I do. And it takes forever, but that's what you do. And if somebody hasn't answered the question, they get no marks. So it's answer the questions, because you're being compared to everybody else. And obviously be positive, enthusiastic, and passionate. That's what shines through. The point Jimmy made earlier, that's what really shines through. You're looking for people who shine, who stand out from the crowd, and that passion is so important. So let's go on to another one now. What do you think the judges look for when they're scoring entries? Because it's what judges look for that really matters. Now, judges are given notes as to what to look for, and how to score, to try and ensure that they're all marking in the same way, and they're given a scale of points to give for each answer and so on. So it's all, and you get more than one judge per application. So you get different people and then compare and contrast at the end of it. So the judges have and in my experience, the judges take it very, very, very seriously indeed. It's not something you do lightly. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of adrenaline judging, because you want to get it right. You want to ensure that the best businesses do win, and it's not just left to chance. So what do you think that they look for when they're scoring entries? Does anyone have any experience of judging in the panel? No. So when you're writing your your answers. What are you imagining the judges are looking for? Don, you made the mistake of nodding your head there. What do you think?
Well, I was glad to hear that as a judge yourself, you actually have a matrix and that you're kind of going through it methodically. Because I think, as you're answering each question, you think, am I giving evidence? Am I giving examples? And are the examples ones that people can get their head around? They're not too waffly, or they're not using jargon or words that aren't, transferable. If I do use a case study, or I mention a product, or I describe a process, is it something that a layperson can understand quickly in a small number of words? And then how do I bring it to life and make it human? You have to imagine there's a person at the other end reading dozens and dozens of awards. So I think it's similar to when back in the day when we all sat our exams. You have to be colourful and vibrant and bring your personality through, but you also have to be succinct and precise. And imagine that somebody is looking for opportunities to tick as they're marking your reward entry. And I think, Jimmy's point about giving it to somebody outside of your business is brilliant. I've got people around me who I know, don't take any BS, let's just put it that way. So they'll tell you straight if they don't understand something. I don't really get what you're talking about there, Dom. And sometimes that's hard to hear. It's hard to take because you're so passionate and the thing you're working on is so important. But if it doesn't translate, then you do need to go again. You need to just stop and pause and go, what's a better way to describe this? So I would just pick it out. If you were writing a press release, it's like the who, the how, the what, the why, the when. Just answer some of those really simple questions and always be thinking, what can I put in this caption, in this paragraph that actually proves that point? So claim versus evidence, claim versus evidence. And then that allows David and his colleagues to actually be able to mark you and not mark you down, frankly. So those would be my tips.
Yeah, excellent. Anyone else got anything you'd like to add to it?
I spoke to one of the judges at the awards in Glasgow, and she was saying that actually she's really sort of drawn to applications that are well written. So like you said, David, no typos, just grammatical errors. You want somebody to enjoy reading it. So as well as you've got that tiny word count, you want it to be engaging as well as concise. So like Dom said about bringing that to life. And also, I don't know if this is a bit rogue, you'll be able to tell me, David, but thinking outside the box a little bit. So just even in terms of growth, I know before we've talked about maybe the growth of our individual people or of our teams. Not necessarily, it's not always financial growth, or it's not always the obvious. You sort of have to think a little bit outside the box, and how can you be creative about what they're wanting to hear?
Yeah, I think judges want to be surprised in a positive way. Not shocked, but I think they want to be surprised by, suddenly put something, oh gosh, that's interesting. And that stays, it stays in the mind, that's how you get your points. Anybody else?
Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I think during the COVID time, it sort of made us think outside the box. Like what we have been doing, like even Jimmy, you were saying you went onto online selling and all those. Even for mine, I did online classes. So I think in a funny way, it is a blessing in disguise. It sort of made us think about what else we can do. And that's how when the judges are looking, I think they're also looking, what have you done regularly and what have you added on? And I presume, isn't that David? Is it something like that?
Yes, very much so. Yes, it's the extra. Yeah. And Jimmy?
Well, I think I was just going to come in there and just say it's you're right. It's catching the eye of your application has got to resonate with the person it's reading it, and if you're going in front of a judging panel, why does your story why is it different from someone else's? We all provide a service, or we make things, or we sell things. So we're all doing similar things, but what have we done that has been a bit different? And it's how you take that, as I say, it's a passion of the business, of the people in the business, and how do you put it down in paper that when they pick up your application, that is the one that's put in the top of the entry rather than the bottom.
Yes.
But and as I say, it's a whole raft of things. It's not just one thing.
Yes.
It's being able to tell that story in such a way that it's within the boundaries of the questions, but it hits the right tone and the story behind it.
Yeah. I mean, every awards I've ever been involved in has a category for young entrepreneurs or young people. And what you often find there, in my experience, is that they might be running a most fantastic business out. And in many cases they are, but they don't know how to express themselves. And it's very hard then to mark them highly when they just don't know, they don't have the wherewithal to get it down on paper. And then you get people who pay for some outside agency to come in and write it for them. But that can lack authenticity. It can lack, it's not, that person isn't speaking from the heart. And there's no right or wrong answer, but it's a very hard one. The one thing I would say is that never, ever, in my opinion, exaggerate or sort of bend the truth to enhance the application, because you can pull the wool over the judge's eyes, but your peers, other businesses in your area, the community, they'll know how good your business is. And if you've got the top award, I mean, people have muttered to me about winners in the past. How did they get it? Blah, 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 blah. People are, so just be totally honest and open and upfront, and this is how it is. You don't want to, not over-egging the pudding, but obviously giving a positive spin, but not over-egging the pudding, because you will be judged by others. Right, so if I win or I'm a finalist, how do I make the most of my success? We haven't got too much time for this, but let's start with you, Jimmy.
Well, I think you've just got to embrace the moment. And as I said, opportunities will come from being a winner. And at that point, you've got to grasp and I never knew that there was going to be a huge marketing campaign done on behalf of my win. And I think that's a huge platform for us to push our e-commerce going into Christmas. So that's taking full use of that win, but there's also all the other PR things that come with it. And as I say, it's getting your name out there. You've got to be visible to your customers, and especially in this digital age. You've got to be visible across all the socials, all the various platforms, and that's where I'm really lucky that my daughter works very closely with me, and she's able to take these opportunities and max them out. So it's seize the moment. It's as simple as that. This will not last. Make the best of it. The sun is shining. The hay is to be harvested. Go get it.
And the fish to be caught. Yeah. Nadia.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Jimmy says, shout about it. We keep milking ours, so maybe we try and make ours last. But actually, I think that's okay to do. And we sometimes talk about awards that we've won the last few years. And I think somebody mentioned earlier about saving your application, and then you can dip back to that and see how far you've come as well is really helpful. Yeah, we put ours out on social media, on our website, even on our email signatures. Yeah, just getting it out there, because people aren't going to know that you've won unless you tell them.
Excellent. Thanks very much. And let's go to Sharmina.
Yeah, I agree with Jimmy and Nadia. It's very true. Onto social media, and in a funny way, it's such a roller coaster, because people have seen you receive this award. They approach you and say, why don't you enter this award or that award? And this year it was such a blessing for me, because I received 10 awards, and then the press gave me Trader of the Year because it came out in the press. So it's like a domino. It just works. You just carry on, because one thing leads to another, to another, to another. So go for it. Enjoy your journey.
10 awards, 10.
Yeah.
Oh,
and the FSB is behind me.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah. Very good. And Dom.
I feel like I need to put my hat on so I can take my hat off to Sharmini and her 10 awards. So not worthy, but yeah, don't underestimate the power of telling people that you've won an award. And I would milk it. I would, as Jimmy and Nadia said, use it for everything. Put it on your emails. Make sure the emblem is on your website. Stick it out on social media before, during, and after. Tell people you've entered. Tell people you've been shortlisted. Take a photo of yourself at the awards ceremony before it's announced. And then if you're lucky to win, great. talk about that too. But don't underestimate just how far the network effect of talking to the people that are in your industry, that are connected to you on LinkedIn, how far that travels. And it travels silently. And people then mention it to you later in the real world. Oh, I saw you won that award. Every time I turn LinkedIn on, you guys are shortlisted for another award. That has a positive impact. And, you know, in the real world, people talk to one another. Have you seen what your Blockquity are up to? Did you see what they just did? And they were shortlisted for that award. That has a knock-on effect, and it's positive networking effect. So it might be invisible to the naked eye, but it's real and it's happening. And if you've got a small audience on LinkedIn or Twitter, microcasting is absolutely fine. If you reach 10 people and they're the right 10 people, that's better than not reaching them. And those 10 people are connected to another 100 people. So don't worry too much about the size of your audience or how many people visit your website. Small numbers of people are connected to bigger numbers of people. So don't let that be a barrier. Be proud and talk about your win, your shortlisting, the fact that you've entered, and that will have a knock-on and network effect for you. So it really is, it's invisible to the naked eye. And if it's not a world that you operate in, just believe that it's valuable and it works. And if it's not something you personally can do, as Jimmy's done, find somebody who can and leave them to it. Give them the information and let them run with it.
Excellent.
Could I just very quickly add a very quick footnote in here? When I started out as a young skipper at 26-year-old, an old fisherman said to me, Jimmy, always be a leader, never a follower. That's the line to take.
Yeah. That just sums up everything, doesn't it, really? The only thing I would say, it's a bit limp after that one, is that obviously Dom's talked about the social media stuff and everything, which is really important. When it comes to sort of ancient media like newspapers and radio and stuff, talk to your local FSB staff member, your development manager, because they have great contacts with the local media, and it's better to combine forces than rush out with something and then it maybe goes off half-cocked. So work together on it, and to make the most of it, because we're all really keen to get the buck. So you've got a ready helper there, but that's really, really good. So let's have a look. It's now 6 minutes to go, so let's have a look at the Q&A box. Put my glasses on to read it. Now, one question is, how long does a new business trade before it is no longer considered a startup? Which is a very good question. Recently launched our product in the last year. This registered legal entity 2 years ago. We're still pre-revenue and still in development. What we will do is to find the answer for our awards on that one, because I don't know it off the top of my head, and I should do. So we'll find that out. I'm going to copy and paste it into something right now so I don't lose it. And when we send the email out with all the stuff in it, with the link to the webinar, we will include that answer to that question.
I mean, I would just say, David, that organisation sounds like a startup to me.
Yeah, it does to me. But...
So crack on would be, seek forgiveness, but you definitely sound like you're at the early stages if you're pre-revenue and yes. You've only been going a year or 18 months.
A year in, it's very much a young business. But in terms of when does the cutoff happen, I don't know. So I will get that into the email. But yes, in the meantime, yeah, plow on regardless. Yeah, absolutely. Now, when Sharmini mentioned online events and that you can get support from other members in completing the submission, can you tell us how to access these events and support? Well, we have very regular networking sessions online where you can meet all sorts of other businesses, and it's really a case of you making contact with them after the event privately. We don't have any formal way of training you, if you see what I mean, or allowing that to happen. But the thing is to make contact with other members through these networking sessions, and then you make your network of friends, and you can contact them about anything. I
was just going to add in there, if that's all right, David. I think there's a sense of sort of camaraderie between FSB members and winners, but also members alike. And I know when we've been at the awards or even just at other events, we've actually found suppliers or people that we've gone on to work with. So that's a really valuable network, whether you're at the awards or whether you're just at the normal events, really worthwhile being part of.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, that's it. And then another question here. I'm a one-man band at a very early stage. Is it viable to be looking at awards when I don't really think I've achieved anything of note yet? Anyone want to take that question?
I'm happy to, yeah. I think I referenced it a little bit earlier. Enter the award and it will give you a sense of how far you've come and where you haven't got enough answers yet. So it's not a bad thing to do regardless. The other thing is nobody knows that you've entered if you choose not to tell them. So it's no embarrassment in entering award and not being shortlisted. Use it as the process to help you get your head around where are we, what more do we need to do? So I would just say start now. And even if at the end of filling in the form you choose not to enter, that's okay. But it means what do you need to do in the next 12 months so you are ready? So that would be my advice.
Right, excellent. And then Mary asks, what are the chances of winning? It's great to hear the success stories, but I guess it's just as disheartening if you're not shortlisted. Well, very quickly on that one. To me, and to certainly a lot of members I speak to, one of the greatest things, we've covered it earlier, is the opportunity to review what you're doing. So it's not about the winning, it's the taking part and what it forces you to go through, to take a step back from the hurly-burly of business, to take a step back and review everything. That is what matters. And we had our grand thing with the reception with the First Minister of Scotland 2 weeks ago. And one of the members was saying that to me then. Yeah, we won. Yeah, we got some publicity. Yes, yes. But actually, it was the process that we value most. So it's not all about the winning. And the chance of winning, well, who knows how many people go in for these things at a local level? We do. But it is definitely worth applying. And obviously, some are easier to win than others. But it's the process you go through that matters. Then Sandy asked, not a question, but a comment. Thank you all for being a very honest, humble, diverse, and motivating panel. Well, that's great. Thank you, Sandy. You will get a discount on your membership. What sort of proofs are required? Just the proofs that we asked for. So just make sure you've got your, when you're writing your answers, just answer the questions. And if you're asked to add attachments, then add the attachments that are asked. Could you talk through the various categories of awards? I'm a limited company, nearly 5 years old business. If you Google FSB awards, you'll find all about it there. There's masses and masses of information and so on that website. Clearly, we're 2 minutes to go, so we haven't got time now. One of my colleagues has said, Startup Business of the Year, open to business in operation for under 2 years from date of entry. So that answers the question. So it's startup business is under 2 years old from the date of entry. And final question from Sandy, are the networking sessions for members only? Absolutely not. Google FSB events. You'll see a massive array of things we do, from webinars to networking to everything. Anyone, anywhere can go to anyone they like. So if we have one for the north of Scotland and you're in Penzance, you can come along. You'll probably learn a lot. And so it's everyone is welcome. So that's almost it now. Just wanted to say thank you very much for everyone coming. Very big thanks to our panels, Nadia, Sharmina, Dom, and our reigning UK Small Business of the Year winner, Jimmy. And thank you for coming along today, for watching the recording. And even if you're going to watch it, I'm going to say stale, what the opposite of live is on our video, we hope you get a lot from it. And we hope you find it motivating and enthuse you to take part. We'll be sending the recording out shortly. So do remember that while everyone is in to win it, it's a taking part that might well be the most useful part of the whole thing. And don't forget to check when the awards close in your neck of the woods. It'll be January or February. Google FSB Awards deadlines and you'll see the link, and you click on that and lo and behold, you'll get all the dates there. So it's farewell from heaven and earth, which is another name for the ever sunny Highlands and Islands. Although it's actually not very sunny today. But thanks very much for coming, and go forward and prosper and apply. Bye for now.